Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, real estate investors. Scott Carson here for another episode of the podcast. And I think you guys are going to get a lot of value out of this special episode. How do I know that? Well, based on what you listen to and what you tell me and the questions you guys ask, I do read my email, I do read the comments. And a few episodes ago, can be specific, we talked about the 5 things that all real estate and note investors need to do before the end of the year, if not by the first of the year. And one of the most biggest comments about that, I would say, most amount of comments we got about that is how do we set up a self-directed account, or how do we make our self-directed account work faster for us in getting things done? Because it's all about speed, especially come the end of the year, closing something before the end of the year, the end of the holidays, and taking maybe your money is sitting in your 401k or an old 401k or old IRA and putting it to work for you smarter and not make it harder for you to use. Well, this episode is all about making it easy for you and putting tools in place so that you can take advantage of the different opportunities that we see at the end of the year and help you close deals faster. Now, what am I talking about? We're going to dive into the details of self-directed IRA LLCs, having checkbook asks, and I brought in an expert in this whole industry to be able to ask your questions about this. Now, this guy, he is a rock star at what he does. He is a self-directed retirement specialist, and he works with Safeguard Advisors. For the past 4 years, he's helped investors gain greater control of their retirement funds through self-directed plans that allow for alternative investments like real estate, private lending, crypto, startups, and more. His focus on making the self-directed process easy to understand and accessible for anyone looking to diversify and build long-term wealth. Who am I talking about? Well, we're talking about the big honcho, the big enchilada, Mr. Nick Sahagan, joining us today from Safeguard out there. What's going on, Nick? How you
I
doing today,
love
buddy?
it. Great to be here, Scott. I appreciate that. All things I've never been called in my life, but I sure do appreciate it.
You ever been called
Um,
the big enchilada? Well, you're
the
not
big
from
enchilada,
Texas.
that's a first one for me. I appreciate it. Making me feel real good about myself here.
Well, we want to make sure that you feel good because you're doing good things for people out there.
I
And
appreciate that.
it's funny, you reached out to me a few months back. We got to
Yeah.
talk about IRAs, stuff like that. And then I was like, I either missed the email, saw it, didn't get email went somewhere and I didn't see it, and you fall back, which I'm thankful for, because I was like, we had such a great phone call talking about different things that you guys are doing. And I was very excited to get you on the show. And now I think it was delayed for a reason, so as to get to the fourth quarter here to help folks
Yeah.
out there. You know what I
I
mean?
mean, this is crunch time. Yeah. This is really, like you said, this is the perfect time to get everything set up as you're wrapping up everything for the end of the year. This is just another one of those things to put on your checklist to make sure that you're prepared for the next year going into, really all the strategies that you have at your disposal for building your wealth. So yeah,
Yeah,
everything
and
happens for a reason.
it does happen for a reason, exactly. And I always look at turning my new year into a 14-month year. I start looking at
Ooh.
October and November, and then using November, December to start putting things in place and planning and things rock and roll. And we see that. We see this at where real estate investment clubs have more people showing up first of the year to do some things. People are getting their Q4, statements on their retirement accounts. They're setting up
Mhm.
new, uh, what we call that, indentures or endeavors for the year, New Year's resolutions. That's what I was looking for. What they want to do.
Yes.
They're tired of seeing their investments take a bit of a hit, and they want more control on controlling how their investments return for them, and dive into something besides what Charles Schwab or H.E. Edwards or any of those out there can offer for them, right?
Yeah, and I mean that's really what we're all about. We're all about providing that education, making sure people know when you do see that end of year statement, you're like, what is my retirement money actually doing? Am I just, banking on the fact that, this line is going to go up and continue to go up for me, and then, 20 years, 30 years, whenever I retire, like what kind of control do I have in that? We just want to let people know that you do have control. You can break free from Wall Street and really start to bet on yourself, bet on what you know, the skills and the knowledge that you have, and let that do the talking, let that make you money, let that help you build, generational wealth and passive income.
And I think the big key is to start putting things in place before you get that January 1st statement from your credit cards and find out what Thanksgiving and Christmas cost you, right?
That's right. Yeah, you definitely have some surprises
My
coming
credit
up there.
card's at 20 some odd percent. Well, how do I get that taken care of and do some different things? Or if you're leaving jobs or you've been laid off,
Exactly.
like a lot of folks do. And, what was it? Salesforce laid off like 4,000 people across the country. You see companies tightening up and they've got an
Oh, wow.
IRA or a 401k. let's talk about, a lot of folks are like, well, I'm just going to roll it into my new 401k or my new IRA. I think that's a mistake for the most part, is that most people don't know that they can truly self-direct their IRA into those alternative asset classes like we talked about before, right, Nick?
Yeah, and I mean that's really where a lot of people start to look into this option.
Hmm.
They either change jobs or they get laid off, whatever the situation is. They come to this point where they're like, "Oh, I have this sum of money in my retirement account. What do I do with this?" They basically want you to roll it into another solo 401k or another 401k, or they want you to take it as a distribution. And that really feels like your only options. And the more you know about self-directed, the more you know about being able to invest in alternative assets like real estate notes, like real estate in general, like crypto. Once you just learn about the tool belt that you have and the options that are out there, you can really start to make a better plan and think about how you can, like I said before, rely on yourself, stop relying on Wall Street, and take your retirement and your future wealth into your own hands. That's really what it looks like.
Hmm. And your wealth in your own hands, allowing you to take advantage of the different opportunities. And we know we got folks on here
Hmm.
that are looking at distressed real estate or looking to buy rental property for the first time or something like that. And there's some specific rules that you can't do. You can't go and go do the work yourself. You can't go and use that fix and flip property, go staying in on the weekends or stuff like that. You can't have, um, oh, what's the word? Immediate benefits. Got to be a arm's length
Right, yeah.
transaction. Because when you're creating a self-directed IRA, it's really you're creating a separate entity. It's not cloning yourself, but you're creating a whole different, let's just say, persona, right, Nick, that they can use to invest in, right?
Right. You're really creating an entity that you have direct primary authority over. In our case, it's either an LLC or a trust. We can get into what that structure looks like. Really, I think a good place to start is where I think a lot of people have heard of self-directed IRAs before. I think there's a lot of confusion between the differences between, even the different types of self-directed options that you have, because you have your traditional option with the stock market with all your conventional brokerages, and then you have your self-directed. Within self-directed, there's a couple different options that you can look at through there. One that a lot of people are aware of are is something called direct custody. So direct custody is really where your custodian, the custodian that set up your IRA and your plan, is executing transactions on your behalf, and they're physically holding those assets for you. Um, they don't set up an LLC, an additional entity, or anything like that. You essentially submit your investment request to them. You say, "Hey, Mr. Custodian, can I pretty please invest in this property over here? I see this distressed note, this non-performing note. Can I invest in this?" They have some processes to go through, some paperwork for you to fill out to do that. There's some delays and fees involved with that structure, and I mean, it really in an environment where you need to be autonomous, you need to have flexibility, control, and speed, it can really slow you down. It can really start to really be a hindrance to you even being able to use your self-directed retirement funds for what you wanted to use them for in the first place.
Mhm.
I won't bash on it too hard because it is a great option. The
Let's
pros,
bash, Nick. Let's bash.
I
We
mean,
don't blow bullshit here. Okay. Let me tell you something. Not all self-directed IRA companies or custodians are equal. I've had stuff where equity bust, we'll just use a synonym, okay? An
sure.
AKA, what should take a 7-day transaction for funding for our students, where they've got the money sitting over there, they filled out the directional investment form, they provide all the documents.
Hmm.
In 1 week, 5 days later, where's our funds? Oh, we need another form another week. Okay, here's another form. Oh, you got a new person. I need to know the whole story again. So
Hmm.
the good thing about them is they're big. They've helped people get educated on the aspect of it. The bad thing is their service is horrible. And unfortunately, it's like that in a lot of the companies out there. You've got to submit your direction of investment forms, the documents have to be signed. And I'm going to tell you this here, I know you won't say this because you're a good guy, but almost every self-directed IRA custodian out there, when we're closing on a note deal, or one of my students is buying a note, has asked them to commit fraud to
Oh,
fund the deal because they want a copy of a signed assignment of mortgage before they release funds. Well, how is a bank going to provide a proof of funds or a transfer document when they haven't received the funds yet.
Yeah, I
And
mean the chicken. It means the chicken and the eggs. Like
yeah, they don't
how?
understand. Like, we can't provide an assignment of mortgage or a
Right.
launch because they haven't received anything yet. But you want me to fake create a fraudulent document. And that's one of my biggest pet
Mm,
peeves is the fact is like this is a bunch of bullshit. You see the contract, you've seen
yeah.
the loan sale agreement, you've seen the assignments of the other things.
How many other forms do you need me to fill out?
Yeah,
How much
exactly.
more
How many
proof do you
hoops do I
need
need
of
to
this
jump
asset? Yeah.
through? How many different people do I need to get on the phone that don't return an email in a timely fashion? That's what I love about what you guys do is you take all that out of the way, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Forget the processing delays, forget everything else. We're putting you directly in the driver's seat. I like to look at equity bust and these other direct custody options. It's more like you're calling an Uber. I mean, you're really putting your faith in their hands. You're saying, I need to get to this place. Can you please drive me there? They can look at that and be like, you want me to drive you 20 miles to this? No, I'm not going to do that for you. Or they do, and then you gotta, jump through the hoops. You gotta wait at this curb. I mean, you're waiting on them. It's their vehicle. They're going to drive you to it.
Yeah.
With checkbook control, it's really let's get you a car. Let's hand you the keys, and you want to go there, drive there. Be careful. I mean, you're driving on the freeway. Remember the rules rules of the road. Be a safe driver. But beyond that, I mean, you know how to drive a car. Scott, you know how to drive a car. You know how to sell notes. You've been doing this for a long time now, had a lot of success doing this. Why are you having somebody else drive you around? I mean,
I
if you
love
if
that
you want to
analogy.
be more hands off, that's great. If you don't have time for it, I can see that. But if you know how to do it, and if you have the vehicle to do it, drive yourself there.
Hmm.
Take control, take the wheel, right?
Hmm. Well, and that's one thing we find, and this is a statistic that we've researched over years, stuff like that, is that we found that of the money sitting at the self-directed IRA custodians, 30 to 40% is sitting there in 0% interest-bearing accounts, not doing anything.
Mm,
Because those investors are waiting for someone to bring them a deal because they have to jump through the hoops. They can't go find something themselves that they can actually write a check to. They've got to be reliant on that. Whereas, as you just said, let's wait for somebody, let's get rid of driving Miss Daisy and put you in the
right.
driver's seat where it's easier to form these transactions and get stuff closed by writing a check and other things. But before we dive in, let's talk about maybe how it's structured a little bit differently, what is needed to get set up, and kind of talk about the mechanics of I guess, the paperwork to set this stuff up and go from there.
Yeah, so what you're looking at, and I'll pull up a visual here. I'm a visual
Okay.
learner, so it always helps for me to see things. Let me get this pulled up for
Sure.
everybody.
And if you're listening to this, you may want to jump over and watch the video. We'll put the link in the video there so you click on so you can watch it as well for you. But yeah, basically, you've got the checkbook control SDIRA structure that starts off where you have an existing retirement funds, right?
Yeah, so we have this structure where it's kind of a treed structure with different layers. The very top of this structure is where you're getting this capital from, because everybody has this untapped capital in their retirement accounts that they just don't know that they can use for these alternative assets. That's where it all begins. So you have a previous employer plan, like we talked about. You have other personal brokerage IRAs that you have funds in that are just in these conventional assets. That's where it all begins. And really, it's as simple as being able to transfer or roll over those funds into a self-directed IRA. It's just like any other IRA out there. The only difference is these IRAs are set up with a custodian that allows you to invest in alternative assets. If you go to Charles Schwab, if you go to these other custodians, you're going to be hard pressed to have them help you buy a house with your retirement funds. They're just not set up for that. They don't profit from it, to be frank.
Yeah.
They're really just selling you the products on their shelves at the end of the day. So you need a custodian, you need an IRA that's set up to hold alternative assets, to be able to purchase alternative assets. That's the second part of the structure. So you're transferring funds. For those of you listening, I know you can't see this. Go over and watch the video. This is a really great visual for you to be able to grasp the concept. You're starting with existing retirement funds. Those are being transferred into the next level, the self-directed IRA. From here, you still need that vehicle, you still need that car that's going to give you the ability to drive the funds, to give you the primary authority. And that comes in with a specialized entity. So I may have mentioned this before. We set up a specialized LLC or trust, and that is the vehicle that you're driving. You are the primary authority. That means you're the manager, you're the trustee of this entity, and you have access to be able to direct funds from that entity. You're essentially a fund manager of that LLC or that trust is a good way to think about it as well. Um, so with that specialized entity, you really just set up an LLC or a trust checking account, preferably at a bank that understands self-directed accounts so they're not running you with a bunch of questions. That's the great thing about Safeguard Advisors is we actually work with one of the nation's leading self-directed banking institutions, Solera National Bank. They've been in this industry for 10 plus years. And it's really just this place where you get to stop, set everything up, and go without having to worry about how many institutions you have to work with to get this set up. So you set up this LLC or trust checking account, as you can see here. And this is really where the rubber meets the road. This is where you start to drive. This is where things start to happen and you start to generate wealth. You have all these different investment assets that you can invest in. It's alternative assets as a broad term. Really, what that means is you can invest in anything allowable by law. Okay. A lot of the popular ones are real estate, cryptocurrency, private equity. But when it comes down to what the IRS is telling you you can or can invest in, they're really only saying you can't invest in a handful of things. The first thing is they say that you can't invest in life insurance policies or contracts. Completely off the table. If you came looking to do self-directed IRA, life insurance policies or contracts, I'm sorry, that's not what it's built for. The IRS says definitely no. The second thing is you can't invest in any subchapter S corporations. That's one that doesn't come up, doesn't apply to as many people. And then really the last big one is they don't want you investing in any collectibles. When IRAs first were allowing alternative assets, people started buying wine collections, people started buying collectible cars, and they were driving these things around. The IRS said, yeah, I don't think we want people doing that anymore. Maybe we should choke up on the leash a little bit more. So anything deemed a collectible, the IRS has a really good list of what that looks like. But anything else that doesn't meet those three criteria is on the table. So I mean, there's only three boxes here, but it's a wide spectrum, it's a wide range, it's a wide collection of assets that you can invest in. Um,
Okay, so let's dive back in here this a little bit because I got a couple questions for you, as I'm sure they'll
yeah,
pop up.
hit me.
Now, when you're rolling over your 401k retirement, or let's just say from Chase Bank, and you're
Sure.
moving it to a self-directed IRA, who is the who's where's that SD IRA at? Is that with you guys? Is it with a different bank? Is it with one of your competitors that's holding it, setting up, or you guys setting up the account? The money gets wired into that, and then it goes to Solero. How's that kind of work? You know what
Yeah,
I mean?
great question. Yeah, really good question. That will really help me um, help you guys see like how much of a one-stop shop this is. Let's start with what you typically face. What you typically face is you need three institutions to put this structure together. You need obviously a a plan document provider who can create the specialized entity, the LLC or the trust. Because this can't just be a general purpose LLC that you set up on LegalZoom or with your friend attorney.
Or go down to the Secretary of State and get an LLC and a tax ID number?
Exactly.
Okay,
No,
yeah, okay.
it's a specialized entity that has to be set up in a specific way to be able to be owned by a retirement account. So that's the first institution you need. You need a plan document provider. Then you do need a custodian, like we talked about, who allows for self-directed IRAs to give you the access to invest in alternative assets. And thirdly, like we talked about, you need a bank to set up your LLC or your trust checking account. And heaven forbid you have to set that up at a Wells Fargo, at a Chase Bank, and you hand them an operating agreement that says that, hey, this LLC is the sole member is an IRA, and they look at that and say, um, excuse me, what? This is owned by an IRA. Do you need us to set you up an IRA? Let's set you up an IRA. And you say, no, I already have an IRA. So at the end of the day, you need a banking institution that understands this. So those three institutions, you've got plan document provider, you got a custodian, a self-directed custodian, and a self-directed banking institution.
Now, let me
We,
clarify something there. You said
mhm.
something very, very important as an ex-banker. And I'll say this all day long. There's nothing wrong with banking at Wells Fargo, Bank of America, Chase, City, any out there.
No, great at what they do.
They're great at what they do, but their products, anything outside the box, most of the loan officers aren't going to be trained. And I can say
Mhm.
this because I walked into it, being an ex-financial advisor, became a banker. I knew about IRAs and all that stuff, and most bankers didn't know, the checking account, difference from checking account and a savings account. All right. And then let alone say that you got to set up something with a tax ID that doesn't match up with your ID. That's going to blow them out of the water, and then it's going to lead to more problems because they don't know how to put it in their square box what they're trained for. So they're not trained, and then they also cycle through a lot of these, bankers pretty often. So getting with a relationship that understands it and what their focus is one of the most valuable things about this that will avoid issues. The last thing you want to do is set up something that gets bounced back because back office in Chaser City didn't like how it was structured, so they closed your account, which is seen happen many a time.
Exactly. Yeah, great point. And that's what a lot of people run into. They say, "Oh, I'll just set it up at my local bank." And I always, in my head, I'm screaming, "Please don't. Please don't go through that pain. Don't go through that process." Um, and like I said, you have these three institutions that you need to make this structure work to be able to build this vehicle for you. Um, Plan document provider, self-directed custodian, self-directed banking institution. We have all of that wrapped up in one setup process, in one setup price and really one institution. So Solera Bank, they're as I said before, they are expert self-directed banking institution, but they're also a self-directed IRA custodian. So they check those two boxes. We take care of all of the plan document provider side of things. So we set up the LLC, we set up the trust. That includes everything. We create the plan documents. We file with the Secretary of State. We take care of all the upfront costs that are associated with setting up the LLC. So it's really you fill out your safeguard application and we take you all the way from the top of this list to the bottom of this list. So and for those of you that can't see this the
Well,
visual here.
that's you basically one-stop shop for three entities that you need there, which is good.
Exactly.
So it's all
Exactly.
in-house, they're controlling with it. And just because you may live in a state Solero Bank's not in, you have online access, and you get what? You get access via a debit card, checking account.
Yeah. All the capabilities that you have with a bank account, sending wires, having people send and pull funds via ACH transactions, writing a check, having a debit card that you can use and utilize. It's all those same capabilities that you have now with just your retirement funds.
Well, I like it because it's at a different bank that you would be, so there's less chance of you commingling funds, moving. Oh, I got to move money over, or a bank pulling money out of your IRA account as an overdraft by mistake. I've seen that happen before. That's not a good
Exactly.
thing.
Yeah. And I've seen that too. I've had people come to me and they say, I just want to be able to access those funds. And I say, no, you don't, because the moment you touch those dollar bills, Uncle Sam is going to be very unhappy. He's going to be right there saying, "Hey, what are you doing with that money in your hand? That's retirement funds. You're not supposed to be
Hmm.
holding that." So it is good. It is nice to have this. It's an online bank, so we serve customers nationwide, about 30,000 customers self-directing
Wow.
their retirement funds, all from their online accounts at arm's length, so it keeps it nice and compliant. You're not gonna make the mistake of pulling out retirement funds and handling those personally, which is a prohibited transaction. Just again, a really great solution, a solution that makes it so you're not, finding one institution that provides the LLC and trust checking account or setting up the entity, and they say, "Great, you got this set up. You paid us your fee. Go find yourself a custodian." Oh, great, you found yourself a custodian. Yeah, you'll probably want to find a bank account to uh, to be able to direct those funds. Oh, we don't do that. We have this list of providers that you can go with, but that's up to you.
Yeah.
So it really takes all of that mess out of it.
Hmm. And that's the great thing is it's basically right then. If you're to pull money out of your 401k or even doing a rollover, all the major banks will take 6 weeks to send you a check, not an ACH wire. They
Mm,
will take their time sending you a rollover check. I've seen it done many a time, which would drag it. And if you've got to wait 6 weeks for your money on a rollover, that's no good. Let's just say
yeah,
that's no good.
no.
Now, um, before we dive into kind of prohibited transactions, you talked about the three big things: no collectibles, no life insurance policies, and then no in. Oh, what was the third thing? Oh,
Subchapter S
that
corporations.
was it.
Yeah.
Subchapter S corporations, exactly. Um, you can use your self-directed funds to partner with a lot of people or to buy outrightly. Who are the folks you can't? I know you got a chart over here. That's why
Yeah,
that's kind of
let's
next on. Let's talk about where you can't send the money to, as far as lending money to or borrowing money from for a transaction.
let's talk a little bit about prohibited transactions as well, because you're on the road, you need to understand the rules of the road. Really, what you're looking at is a prohibited transaction occurs when you interact or I mean, the whole list is right there. I'm not going to read the PowerPoint to you guys. It's not where I'm here, but you can see this. It's really when you are performing any transactions with a disqualified person. It's things like selling things to a prohibited disqualified person, exchanging or leasing things with a prohibited or disqualified person, lending money, just all these things. Really, the big thing that keeps on coming up here in the IRC in the Internal Revenue Code is with a disqualified person. So it's super important if you're a self-directed IRA investor with checkbook control to understand who these disqualified persons are, who your IRA can partner with, and how you can go about this in a compliant way. Again, because you're driving the car, you don't want to get into a wreck. It will blow up your entire vehicle and your entire IRA. So when we're looking at disqualified person, the biggest thing I hear is that they're like, "Oh, it disqualified persons. It's just my family." And I'm like, yeah, kind of. Not exactly. A lot of people don't realize that you have family, you have a lot of people in your circle of trust that you can actually work with. What I tell people is it's really just the direct family line, straight up and down the family tree as you can see here. So you are definitely a disqualified person, you and your spouse. Um, you are not able to transact with the IRA directly, and that it extends up the family tree, what they call your lineal ascendants in the IRC in the fancy terminology, and your lineal descendants. So that extends, as you can see, if you can't, it extends to your grandparents, parents, and below you on the family tree, it extends to your grandchildren, your children, if they have spouses, anything like that. But what a lot of people don't realize is that if you move more horizontally on the family tree, as you can see here, all these family members in green, you have aunts and uncles, you have cousins, brothers, sisters, nieces, nephews that all can partner with and transact with your IRA without any problems or any questions from Uncle Sam or the IRS.
Now, let me ask you a question. If you're buying a piece of property and you've got 50% of it in your IRA and your wife has 50%, you can partner on buying an asset together as long as the profits are split up 50-50. You can't borrow that 50% from your wife where you fund the whole thing in your IRA, correct?
Yeah, here's an important caveat. Let's talk about that. Technically speaking, it's not advisable. And just for everybody out there, we're all just talking about this for educational purposes.
Right.
I'm not a tax or legal advisor in any way, but let's talk about this important caveat. You can technically partner with a disqualified person on your IRA. What you do set yourself up for is some situations that can happen where you put yourself in a in a big pickle in a
Hmm.
really bad spot. For example, uh let's say that me and my spouse buy a property 50-50 like you said, right? Okay. We have those funds split. We get a tenant in our property. They start paying revenue or income to your self-directed IRA. Let's say that tenant pays 100% of that rent check to you. You're not supposed to get 100%. You're only supposed to get 50%. So now you're in a situation where the only way to rectify that, the only way to fix that is by sending the other 50% to who? A disqualified person to your plan. So you really back yourself into a corner where you have to create a prohibited transaction just to fix the mistake of somebody sending you a check for 100% of the rent.
But you're also, let's talk another thing. The expenses are also supposed to be split evenly. If
Exactly.
somebody doesn't have money in their account, they've got to go put more money into it. And if you've exceeded your annual contribution amounts, you're stuck, Chuck. You violated it as well, right?
Yeah. And something that people will do to get around this, I'm not saying this is what you have to do. This is what I have seen
You're
people
not giving
do.
legal advice.
And
Let's just put
again,
it
yeah,
there.
I really got to stamp that on my forehead because that's really important. What I have seen a lot of people do to kind of get around that and to be more cautious when they're investing with these disqualified persons is they'll set up an entity that is owned by their IRA LLC. So kind of like another level to that structure where the ownership in that entity is split in the same value of the equity that you have in the asset. So with this entity, it would be split 50-50, just like the property with me and my wife. And essentially the tenant is paying this LLC that's owned by your IRA LLC. And then you from there can distribute the funds, in a way that makes sense and is compliant, right?
Much that, and that's the big compliant aspect of that. It's because we see this because when we're researching for private capital, we'll target IRA investors by just typing in IRA company names, and you'll see 40%, 20%, 30%, 10%, like three, four people
Yeah.
different names, same last name, but different names in one ownership. I was like, man, that's got to be complicated. They're open themselves up to a whole lot of issues.
Yeah. Imagine telling a tenant, okay, you've got to pay 10% of the rent to me. You got to pay 30% of the rent to my buddy Al here. You got to pay the other thing. I mean, so there are ways around it. Generally not advisable to partner with a disqualified person. Things you can do, like we talked about, but at the end of the day, it's best just to be safe. There are other people that you trust, that you know, who can partner
Hmm.
with you without having to do all these crazy workarounds. And yeah, best to be safe. Another thing, I don't think I touched on it for the people who can't see it here. Um, all of these people in red, all these people who are disqualified, if they own some type of entity, some type of business with equity exceeding 50% or more, that entity is by extension, that business is by extension a disqualified person or a disqualified entity. So
Yeah, so you
another thing to keep in mind.
can't borrow money from your dad's business, your
Right.
kid's business, that kind of stuff. It just doesn't work that way.
And you'd be surprised that comes up. People are like, "Oh, it's not my dad. It's this business." I'm like,
yeah,
"That your dad owns, right?" And they're like, "Well, yeah." I'm like, "Well,
yeah, you're
disqualified. So I'm sorry."
exactly disqualified. The IRS can void the whole transaction, and you pay penalties on everything and lose your whole self-directed account
Yeah.
status. We don't want that.
Exactly.
Now
Yeah.
let's so this is yeah, so basically vertical. No good for your parents, grandparents, your kids, their kids, your spouse. You can do with your kids, your nieces, your nephews, your wife's the in-laws. That's okay to do that with stuff like that. So
Right.
there are some people get around it. Let's talk about transaction fees and costs and stuff like that because this is the one of the thing I think most people think about one thing, and that's like, what's it cost to set me up, and then what's my management fees and stuff like that. Let's dive into that a
Exactly.
little bit there, Nick.
Yeah, so when you're looking at the self-directed IRA setup and you're kind of pairing it up against your other option, which is direct custody, um, on the direct custody side of things, like you said, you're looking at transactional fees, really at every step of them processing something for you, them moving money for you, and it can get expensive. And you're also looking on top of all those processing fees, you're also looking at the fees associated with just sending the money. So if they're sending a wire, you're going to be paying the wire fee, all those associated banking fees, those are still there. Um, and on top of that, with all these self-directed IRA accounts, you're going to be paying some type of IRA maintenance fee, which is the fee for the custodian to be able to file important tax documents to the IRS at the end of the day. We can get into the weeds if you want to, but at the end of the day, they're filing things or on your behalf to the IRS so that they know that your IRA is worth so much. They know that you've distributed so much from it. Um, and
And
they
that's
and they charge a
it,
fee for that.
they charge a fee. Usually, I don't know, it varies like
It
1% or
varies.
more, varies.
Well, I mean, it can vary even between if custodians are charging it based on your asset value
Yeah.
or if they're charging just a flat rate. With a lot of these bigger custodians, especially with direct custody where they are holding those assets, you better believe they want a pretty chunk of that asset that you
Oh,
have.
well, yeah, because that's made up money. So if
Yeah.
I invested 50 grand in a $100,000 note, what you have to do is by April 15th, send in a statement showing the value of the asset, right?
hmm
And if the value of the asset is 100 grand, even though you haven't received that 50 grand difference, you're going to pay a management fee on that because that's the asset value in the IRA.
Right. So a lot of people will charge based on your assets. So I mean, if you start to accumulate a lot of wealth, it can get a lot more expensive to manage this IRA. The nice thing about Solera Bank that I really like and I appreciate, even just looking at it from a consumer standpoint, is it is a flat rate no matter what. So you're paying $200 annually, for the lifetime of your plan. It's listed at 199, but I mean,
It's just around
I
it. Just
honestly
be,
hate saying that
yeah,
because
yeah, yeah.
I feel like we all know that trick by now. Like
Well,
nobody's
if
being
it was
fooled by that anymore.
197, that's the trick to make it sound like it's a
There
whole lot
you
cheaper.
go.
But
The
so
$197.
$200 annual fee. What's it cost to set
$200
up?
annual fee. What
What
you're
was
looking at for the setup is you're looking at 1075 just right out the box. And a lot of people look at that and they're like, "Ooh, that's expensive." Or they look at other institutions who are just setting up the LLC for it and they say, "Oh, this is a lot cheaper over here." But you got to remember with this one-stop shop, you're getting the entire package and it also does include your first year's IRA maintenance fee. So you're paying the first year's IRA maintenance fee up front.
that's
You're
$200.
paying for the entity, you're paying for the custodial setup, you're paying for the bank account setup as well with this, expert institution in Solera National Bank in the self-directed industry. So you really have to look at it holistically from what you're getting. The nice thing too, for any of your listeners, we really do want to make it as accessible for you as possible. We do have a great promotion for Note Closer Show listeners only. So you get your exclusive discount code. I believe it's NCS
NCS,
100, NCS
NCS 100.
100.
Yep.
So any of you looking to set this up at the end of the year, you can get your discount and really just get things started for a lower barrier of entry than anybody else would really be able
So once
to access
again,
right
let's
now.
let's recalculate that again.
Love it.
So basically, if they use the code, no matter where they're listening to this or watching it, whether it's on the Note Closer Show, Note Night in America, or any of the How to Invest in Texas Real Estate stuff, it's
Hmm.
normally 1075 to set up the bank account, the first year of maintenance fees, and the IRA LLC or trust creation too.
The IRA or LLC touch creation too. Yep, all bundled together. And
No
any
matter
fees,
what.
no matter where you file. I know that some LLC filing fees are more expensive than others. People will honestly ask me, they say, why don't you make that more expensive than the trust? And I mean, the answer at the end of the day is we don't want that to be the driving force in your decision of whether a trust is better for you or whether an LLC is better for
Right.
you. At the end of the day, let's remove cost. What are you more comfortable with, a trust or an LLC? What do you need more, a trust or an LLC?
hmm Now, are you going to see any wire fees, transaction fees along the way if I'm writing a check out of my account to fund a deal or put up an earnest money for a property or anything like that?
So if you're writing a check, you're not going to see any fees. If you're using a debit card, you'll have to apply for it. So they're processed to apply for debit card, but there's no fees associated with the debit card. On the banking side of things, there's no required minimum balance for the account. You're not going to be penalized for having $0 in there. There's no maintenance fee on the account besides the IRA maintenance fee that we already discussed. And really the only thing that you would be paying for is a wire fee. But there are ways around that. Like I said, you could write the check, you have your debit card, ACH is free. So if you want to just do an ACH transfer, you can work your way around the wire fee. And the wire fees are really not that bad at Solera National Bank. You're typically, I think, you're looking at $30 outgoing, $15 incoming, pretty
It's
typical
pretty
of wire
common.
fees.
Yeah.
But again, if you don't want to pay those, then work your way around it. Use your debit card, write a check, or send the funds ACH.
Let me ask you a question. So we're talking about rollovers and stuff.
Mhm.
How difficult is it for folks to submit in their annual contributions to if they wanted to put, was it 7 grand into their Roth IRA? That's a Checkbook LLC access. Do they send in a
Yeah.
check? Do they send a wire in? How do they do that?
Yeah, you're working directly with the IRA transfers team at Solera National Bank. They're phenomenal. Before I was in this space, I actually worked at customer support at Solera National Bank. I relied on them heavily to help me with all my clients there. I can't praise them enough. They're absolutely phenomenal. So yeah, you'll essentially fill out an online form. It's not a form that you have to print off and send back to the custodian. It's an online form you fill out. You let them know exactly how you want to contribute those funds. You say, hey, I want to send this in as a check. I don't need it very fast, or I want to send this in as a wire. I need this now. And yeah, you take care of all those contributions directly through your custodian, Solera National Bank. And again, they're phenomenal, the IRA transfers team. And when you're looking at funds that you're transferring or rolling over, I just want to make a important distinction. A lot of people will associate that $7,000 limit, the $8,000 limit, depending on how old you are, with the rollover itself. They'll say, now what's my limit for, transferring funds over from my 401k or from my other IRA? And the answer is there is none. That only applies to contributions to the plan, meaning new money, personal money that you have that you say, this personal money that's not tied up in any qualified plan, I want to put my money into the IRA. That's where the IRA says, hey, you can't just put, $100,000 in here and expect us not to turn our nose up at it. That's where those contribution limits come into place. So if you have $250,000 sitting in your 401k from a career of working and grinding and doing what you do, that entire balance can go over into a self-directed IRA and you can put it to work yourself. Doesn't have to be the entire thing. It can be a partial transfer, but I just want people to understand that you're not limited in that same way to get funds into the plan.
Yeah, most of the 401ks that companies now allow you to do a withdrawal or transfer over of a partial. Now they're not going to do any type of matching, allow that to go rolling over. But usually, whatever you've inputted in, they'll usually allow you some sort of amount to roll it into a self-directed account or do a transfer in kind, so that you can start putting it to work in some cases. Talk with your HR depend on where you're at to talk with them fully, because Nick and his whole team are going to know what your company does or offers to talk with them about that opportunity for you. Now, could they roll over 50K and the fees be taken out of the 50K that they're rolling over?
No, and that's a big thing that we actually like to avoid. It's a lot cleaner and it speeds up the process quite a bit if you're just paying for those upfront fees
Yep.
with personal funds instead of going through the whole process of reimbursing yourself through the IRA and going through that hassle. Industry standard, honestly, really is to pay IRA setup fees with personal funds. And like we were talking about before, it's that chicken and the egg. Like the IRS says, hey, you can't, spend your personal funds on, IRA things. And you're like, okay, but my IRA is not set up yet and I got to get it set up. How do I do that? So industry standard has really become you're paying those setup fees with personal funds. Um, and really anything else from there on out, you're just making sure that you're paying any expenses with your IRA funds.
hmm Well, for those of you guys that look into wholesale and stuff like that, this is the speed aspect of things I want to get into, and the lack of fees. If you start figuring in rush fees, wire transfer fees, document fees for them to double check everything is okay, that deal can cost you versus being able to go to your local title company, drop off $1,000, 2,000 earnest money dollar check from your safeguard account there for you, your self-directed IRA, LLC, or trust, whatever it is, how you're labeled with it, um, to get that deal put in place versus, okay, I'm going to wait for Quest to take 2, 3 days to
Right.
48 hours to approve the document, approve the wholesaling contract. Then they'll issue a check that gets through a wire that gets another day. Look, cash talks, bullshit walks. Let's just put it there, right?
I like
Okay.
that.
And the reason I harp so much on this, when Nick reached out to me months ago, and the first thing I asked him, what's it going to cost to set this up? I was blown away because most of the time we've seen people it cost $1,500, $2,000, $2,500 to set something up like this for you guys to
Hmm.
have that quick and access. And then unless you're going to be doing a transaction or two once or twice a year, it wouldn't make sense. But this is that point where, A, if you use it once or twice a year for deals, get things, that the speed of access helps you versus the other way around. If it was somebody else, it's going to kill the deal. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And then you're lost. Then you're paying money for fees that drags out stuff like that. And then there's issues. Like I said, your bank, Solera's not going to ask for you to proof up on an assignment of mortgage to show ownership before you wire the funds.
No. Yeah. Again, they're not, and again, they're a passive custodian. They're not even holding the asset. So every year they're to fulfill the fair market value reporting, they'll say, hey, how much is your IRA LLC worth? So they can report that to the IRS. But
Mhm.
beyond that, they're not going to say, hey, actually, before you purchase that, we're going to need to see some paperwork and really qualify this investment before you make it. No, you're in the car, you're driving.
You're
You,
responsible for your
you drove
actions.
by you drove by
Right.
Solera at 70 miles an hour.
Yeah. But
Yeah,
that's
have
that's
fun.
one thing we want to bring up too, is that it's your responsibility. I would keep
Exactly.
clean records. You definitely want to make sure that if you're purchasing a contract or put it down, it's named in the name of your checkbook IRA or trust account.
Exactly.
Therefore,
Hmm.
that makes you want to make sure all the documents are accurate. Just the money you're spending on, being able to track that and provide proof of that with receipts and things like that. You don't want to be using your IRA to go take your buddies to lunch somewhere.
Yeah,
That's not a good
definitely.
day.
Definitely. If you're just setting up a self-directed IRA to game the system, it's probably not a good idea. Probably just don't do just don't go
Yeah,
through with the
don't do that.
process.
Let's don't do that. Now, end of the year when it comes to taxes and stuff like that, does this trust IRA need to file a tax return as well, or
That's a
no?
great question. Yeah. So when you're looking at, and when we get that question all the time, even with current clients, the way this is set up is the trust and the LLC are both set up as a pass-through entity where all the tax liability flows through to the IRA, which we all understand, I think, is a tax sheltered environment. So depending
Mhm.
on what type of IRA you have set up, um, you're avoiding filing taxes for your LLC or the trust, and all those funds that are growing within your IRA are either growing tax-free or tax deferred, again, depending on if you set up a traditional IRA or a Roth IRA.
And then you also got to worry about UBITA too, if you're kind of operating it as a business a little bit too,
True,
right?
yeah. So let's talk about that for a little bit too. So one thing that does come into play if you are if the IRS sees the investments that you are working within your IRA as you operating a business, there's something that comes into play called UBIT, unrelated business income tax, which basically means that, and I guess really the big reason for this to come into play is the IRS doesn't want you to run a cookie shop in your IRA and have an advantage over all the other cookie shops out there and just absolutely destroy the market, right? So with that, they have a tax on that income that you make from any business activity within the IRA to kind of level the playing field at the end of the day.
So if you did buy a business with your IRA, you're going to be paying taxes on that money. In a lot of cases, whether it's deferred or paid for with Roth funds, where it's already tax free, or traditional rollover or 401k rollover, where it's tax deferred, depending on the type of self-directed or type of account. If it was self-directed, if it was a Roth IRA, a Roth 401k, all these numbers are going to get me speaking wrong here. It would be tax free, but if it's a just a traditional 401k, it's tax deferred, so you pay taxes on the money that pulls out based on your tax bracket at the time.
Yeah, and again, the big thing there is, are you operating a business out of your IRA? You could purchase a business and not be doing any operations,
Yeah.
and you maybe you sell that. I don't know what that really looks like, but
Yeah.
at the end of the day, what they're looking for is, are you running a business or do you have business income coming through your self-directed IRA?
Now, how long does it take to get one of these set up? If they are interested in listening to this, how soon can they be rock and rolling?
Yeah. If you're listening now, you want to get set up and you're trying to plan things out, the biggest thing I see is people don't give themselves enough time to have the structure in place. So, like we talked about, the best thing to do is just have it for when you do identify that deal. What you're looking at for setup is typically like a week for the entire process just to get the structure in place. But again, you got to remember, we're not talking about just creating an entity, an LLC or a trust. We're talking about creating the LLC, creating the trust, creating and opening the custodial IRA, and also creating and opening the checking account as well. But we can take, again, like I said, we take care of that at the fastest in the industry when you put all that together. As long as you're on the ball and you're signing things that we need you to sign, that can be opened in a week. And then you're really just counting on the custodian who's holding your existing retirement funds to move things over to your self-directed IRA in a timely manner. And if they offer wire, that can be a 2-day transaction. So
Mhm.
at the end of the day, I would give yourself a week and a half, 2 weeks at most, to be able to get this set up if you have some type of deal on the horizon that you can foresee this being a good plug and play option for.
Yeah, well, make sure you check with you if your money's coming from a traditional bank. And again, sometimes it takes longer than 2 weeks for them to
Exactly.
roll
Yeah.
the money over.
If they
Just
have to send a check and you have to wait for that check to come in snail
yeah.
mail, that's the really unfortunate thing. We just have no control over that.
hmm
Yeah.
If they have questions, how easy is it to get a hold of somebody on customer service or talk with
S-
them?
Yeah, on the Solera banking side of things, super easy to get a hold of customer support. You can pull up the website and they have a chat bubble down at the bottom. You click on that. It's not like you're talking to an AI. You're actually talking to a live agent. They can transfer you from there to, a FaceTime call. They can actually put you on the phone from there. They can walk you through, your online banking and take over your screen, show you around. So they have really great customer service capabilities. If you have any question on the plan document side of things, which is what we do at Safeguard Advisors, I mean, you have my QR code right here. You can always scan my code, put some time on my calendar, and I'm always available. That's really what I do. Is the education doesn't stop once you set up the account. There's, you know, there's things that you'll learn just as you go. I've heard this with a lot of the different aspects of alternative asset investing, people in real estate, people in crypto. I mean, you're not going to know everything before you jump in the water. You have to learn as you swim in a lot of cases, but be
Yeah,
prepared.
it just takes some time, guys, but I will tell you this, it's easy to set up. It's easy to get rock and roll. It's gonna take about a week, maybe two, but having that powder, that dry powder ready to act on a deal, end of the year, first of the year, doing something, it's all about velocity capital. And velocity capital going
Mhm.
out to secure the deal is faster than waiting for permission. Oh, I didn't dot a T, didn't cross an I. I'm waiting for something to come in. You can make this happen a whole lot faster. And if
Exactly.
you got questions about paperwork, pick up the phone. Hey, how does this need to be labeled? How does this need to be signed? That's one question I wanted to ask you, since a lot of the delay for things is waiting on a company, people run to is waiting on somebody to sign a document on behalf of the IRA. They can still sign on behalf of the IRA and the LLC as either a managing member, or is it or how do they
Yeah.
label it?
Yeah, great question. So let's look at a real working example. So you purchase a property. That's the easiest example really to look at. And that property is not owned by you. It's not even really owned directly by your IRA. It's owned by your IRA LLC. So what's on the title? It's the name of your LLC or it's the name of your trust. When you're signing on behalf, you're really just signing according to, we'll go back to that example that we had. You're signing as the manager of the LLC, or you're signing as the trustee of the trust. Again, you're the primary authority. You have signing authority for that entity. So as long as you're signing as the manager, the trustee, that primary authority, yeah, you're the one that puts the John Hancock down and gets the thing moving.
Awesome. What's the best way for folks to connect with you, Nick, to get this ball rolling for them?
Yeah, if you're looking to get started, we've got actually a special link just for Note Closing Show listeners and your community at We Close Notes, a dedicated link that will go directly to my calendar. So yeah, knock off 15 minutes on my calendar. I'm always happy to talk to people, happily go over the 15 minutes you have, additional questions. But yeah, schedule some time on the calendar. Really, it all begins with a phone call and with the questions that you have and getting those answers and getting comfortable with the idea.
Yeah, exactly. If you've got one already, this is something you should definitely look at. Speed of capital, speed will get deals done, and let's save you $100 off it by using the discount code
Yeah,
NCS 100 as well. That's
absolutely.
capital NCS 100 save you an extra $100 and help you get rock and rolling and make the next year, the new year, your most productive and profitable year out there for you. All
There
right,
you go.
Nick, thank you so much for taking time in your busy schedule to come on here, guy.
My pleasure. Always a pleasure to talk to you, Scott. Thanks for having me on. Really appreciate it.
Yes, sir. Well, that's Nick, the big enchilada
The big
Sahagan there,
enchilada,
everybody.
that's me. Put it on my LinkedIn.
There you go. Good stuff there for you. Well, go out, guys. Pick up, use the link in the description there. Book a phone call with Nick, ask some questions, get the ball rolling. Like if you got like $2,000 or $1,000, it may not make sense for you on that to do that. But if you've got 5, 6, 7,000 or more, it's definitely gonna make more sense for you to act quickly, especially on those smaller deals where a lot of people want to do it. And that's the great thing about having access. All about having the right tool and the right strategy to make things happen. This is a strategy for you and the right